In this tutorial, we'll learn how to use the Build Corpus file plugin for the Butter text analysis software. What this plugin will do is allow us to build a specific type of corpus file, a TXT file, that can be used for a few other plugins within Butter, and are generally standard formats for other natural language processing methods that have become popular in recent years. Now, this type of corpus file really is just one large text file where each line of the text file contains a separate text. There's no extra line breaks or carriage returns or anything like that. So really it's a single file that contains the entire corpus or an entire data set. This is particularly useful for the Word2Vec plugin that's also available as a part of Butter. We won't go too far into that right now. Just know that this is the plugin we will use to make that type of file. So I'll show you a quick example of what this looks like. In this example, we're going to go ahead and take some data that we already have. We have some TED Talk data that's in TXT files. Now these are all transcripts of separate TED Talks that are each contained in their own separate TXT file right now. What we want to do is aggregate these into a single file that can then be used by other plugins. This is our Butter corpus file. Now note that this works with all file types. Any text that you can read in from another file type, such as a CSV file or a PDF file, you can aggregate any of these texts into a corpus file. So I'll go ahead and show you how this works. Let's go ahead and add the Load TXT Files from Folder plugin, and we'll tell it where our TED Talk files are. Then we'll go ahead and do the Build Corpus File plugin and attach it right to that. So we're taking in text files and outputting strings, and the Build Corpus File plugin takes strings as input and then outputs our corpus file. And here we're going to convert the corpus to lowercase. You don't have to do this. A lot of times you'll want to do this just so all words that are spelled the same way are treated the same way, so that you don't get differences between uppercase and lowercase, but that depends a lot on the specific text analysis method you're planning on using. So for now, we'll leave this as default, and we'll tell it where we want to put our corpus file. We'll go ahead and put it in this folder here, and we'll leave the encoding as UTF-8. For most people, UTF-8 encoding is fine, but if you know that you need to be working in a different encoding, then you can change that using this drop-down menu here. So we'll go ahead and click Begin Analysis, and it'll start building our file. And this should work pretty quickly. Now if we go and open up this corpus file, you can see how this works. So right now it looks like each text is split across several different lines, but that's because we have the word wrap setting on. If we turn this off and we don't wrap the text around to make it easier to read, you can see each one of these rows contains a separate text. Now for something like Word2Vec, often you'll want to take all these different punctuation marks and split them apart. So here we have the word fact with a comma following it. Now if we run this through certain types of text analysis methods, this will be all treated as a single word or a single token, which is different from fact without the comma after it. So this is different from this. So a lot of times you'll want to pre-process your text a little bit before you actually put them into a corpus file. So to do that, we'll go ahead and do a couple of additional things. I've removed the corpus plugin here, so we're going to read in our texts. We'll go ahead and first tokenize them. so that we're splitting off the punctuation marks into separate tokens. Then we'll go ahead and lemmatize using Lemmagen version 3 so that different words are converted into their more basic form. Words like run, running, runs, ran, these are all various inflections of the same lemma or base form of the word run. So we'll go ahead and just attach this here. So we're really just chopping up our text to make it more easily read and parsable by other methods, and simplifying some of the language data as well. Now we have the texts, the tokens, and then the lemmatizer also takes the tokens and outputs tokens. So we want to convert these back into strings. And we want to do this because the Corpus file plugin takes strings as input. So if we tried to just take those tokens and save them out to a Corpus file, we get this error here. It turns red, and it tells us that the node accepts a different type of input. So here we have our full pipeline. I'm going to go ahead and run this. Whoops. I need to change this setting really quick because I forgot to. Even the pros forget to change their settings sometimes. So we'll go ahead and overwrite this old Corpus file. And it's asking us if we're absolutely sure that we want to do that. I'm pretty sure. Okay, now we'll run it. And you can see it's taking longer than before because we're doing extra pre-processing procedures in between. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this early just so we can see what this looks like. When we come back to our Corpus file here, you can see that it has been successfully tokenized. The punctuation is largely split apart from the words, so they're going to be handled separately. And you can see the language looks a little bit stilted because it has been lemmatized. So this probably said this is a work in process, but the word is, the lemma of that is B, so we get a lot of that. And we now have a very nice, clean, tokenized, and lemmatized Corpus file. Now, the specific pre-processing steps that you'll want to go through are going to depend a lot on what it is exactly you're trying to accomplish with your text analyses. Lemmatizing is not always something that you'll need or even want to do. And the same is true for tokenization and a lot of these other pre-processing methods that you can do with Butter. And that's it. That's how you build a Corpus file using Butter.